He was 17 years old, 5 feet 9 inches, 135 pounds. His serve was so weak that opponents laughed when they saw it. By every metric, he had no business being on the same court as Ivan Lendl, let alone beating him. But in 1989 at the French Open, this kid from New Jersey did something that still doesn't make sense. He didn't overpower anyone. He didn't out-hit anyone. He just won. Here's how. To find out, we need to go back to 1989, Roland Garros, Paris, France. The French Open was in full swing, and the tennis world had their eyes on the usual suspects. Ivan Lendl, the #1 player in the world. Boris Becker, the German powerhouse with a serve like a cannon. Stefan Edberg, the Swedish serve and volley artist. These were the names everyone expected to see holding the trophy. But there was one name that nobody was talking about. A 17-year-old kid from Hoboken, New Jersey. Michael Tipe Chang. Michael Chang wasn't supposed to be here. At 5 feet 9 inches and 135 pounds, he looked more like a high school player than a professional. His serve was the weakest on the entire ATP Tour. I'm not exaggerating. While guys like Boris Becker were hitting serves at 120+ miles per hour, Chang's first serve barely cracked 90. Opponents would literally step inside the baseline to return it. They treated his second serve like batting practice. Commentators openly questioned whether he had the weapons to compete at the highest level. One analyst said, Chang has heart, but heart doesn't win Grand Slams. Another wrote, he's too small, too weak, and too limited to ever win a major. But here's what nobody understood. Michael Chang wasn't trying to play their game. He was playing a completely different sport. Because on June 11, 1989, at 17 years, 3 months, and 20 days old, Michael Chang became the youngest male player ever to win a Grand Slam. A record that still stands today. He beat Ivan Lendl, the #1 player in the world. He beat Stefan Edberg in the final, and he did it all without a single weapon that tennis experts said you needed to win. No power, no big serve, no intimidation factor. So how is that even possible? How does someone with zero physical advantages beat the most dominant players of that era? The answer isn't what you think. Let's break down exactly what Michael Chang didn't have. First, the serve. In 1989, the average first serve speed on the ATP Tour was around 110 miles per hour. Chang's average, 90 miles per hour. That's a 20-mile-per-hour difference. In tennis, that's the difference between forcing your opponent back and inviting them to attack. And it wasn't just the speed. His serve had no variety, no kick, no slice. It was flat, predictable, and easy to read. Opponents would stand inside the baseline, take the ball early, and immediately put him on defense. One player said, returning Chang's serve felt like a warm-up. But watch this. Second, physical size. At 5 feet 9 inches, Chang was giving up serious height to almost everyone he played. Ivan Lendl was 6 feet 2 inches. Stefan Edberg was 6 feet 2 inches. Boris Becker was 6 feet 3 inches. That height difference matters on clay. It means less reach on ground strokes. It means less leverage on serves. It means you have to cover more court just to stay in the point. And at 135 pounds, Chang had zero ability to overpower anyone. When he hit a forehand, guys like Lendl would just step in and crush it back twice as hard. But watch what happens next. Third, the intimidation factor. Tennis is a mental game, and part of that mental game is presence. When Ivan Lendl walked onto the court, you felt it. The guy had won 8 Grand Slams. He was the #1 player in the world. He had a stare that could break you before the first ball was even hit. When Michael Chang walked onto the court, people thought he was a ball boy. Literally. There are stories of security stopping him at player entrances because they didn't believe he was a competitor. So if Chang had none of the traditional weapons, what did he have? Speed, court coverage, and the ability to run down every single ball like his life depended on it. But even that doesn't explain what happened in the 4th round. Because what Michael Chang did against Ivan Lendl wasn't just about speed, it was about breaking every rule in the book. June 5th, 1989, fourth round of the French Open. Michael Chang, the 15th seed, versus Ivan Lendl, the #1 player in the world. This wasn't supposed to be competitive. Lendl had won the French Open 3 times. He was the heavy favorite to win it again. Chang was just happy to be there. But something happened early in the match that changed everything. Lendl came out firing. He took the first set 6-4, then the second set 6-4. Chang was down 2 sets to love. One more set and he'd be out. But then in the third set, something shifted. Chang started getting every ball back. No matter how hard Lendl hit, no matter where he placed it, Chang was there. Forehand corner. Chang ran it down. Backhand corner. Chang ran it down. Drop shot. Chang sprinted forward and flicked it back. And slowly you could see Lendl getting frustrated. He was hitting winners, but they weren't winning points. He was dictating, but he wasn't controlling. Chang took the third set 6-3. Then the fourth set 6-3. We were going to a fifth set. But here's where things got crazy. Because midway through the fourth set, Chang started cramping. Not just a little tightness. Full body can't move, about to collapse, cramping. His legs were locking up. His hands were shaking. He called for the trainer, but there wasn't much they could do. At this point, 99% of players would retire. They'd shake hands, walk off, and save themselves for the next tournament. But Michael Chang didn't do that. Instead, he did something that no one had ever seen before. He started serving underhand. Let me say that again. In the fourth round of the French Open, against the #1 player in the world with a spot in the quarterfinals on the line, Michael Chang served underhand. The crowd gasped. Lendl looked around like, is this allowed? Commentators didn't know what to say, but here's what people missed. This wasn't desperation. This was genius. You see, Chang understood something that most players don't. Tennis isn't about overpowering your opponent. It's about making them uncomfortable. And nothing makes a player more uncomfortable than breaking the rhythm. Lendl was set up 10 feet behind the baseline. He was expecting a normal serve. He was ready to crush a return and end the point. But when Chang hit that underhand serve, Lendl had to sprint forward. He had to adjust his grip. He had to change his entire approach in a split second. And in that moment of hesitation, Chang had already won the point. But it wasn't just the underhand serve. Chang started doing everything differently. He shortened his backswing to conserve energy. He hit moon balls, high looping shots that gave him time to recover. He slowed down the pace, turning every rally into a war of attrition. And here's the genius part. Chang knew he couldn't beat Lendl in a power battle, so he didn't try. Instead, he turned the match into a mental war. Every time Lendl tried to finish a point, Chang got the ball back. Every time Lendl tried to dictate, Chang neutralized. Every time Lendl expected something normal, Chang did something weird. And slowly you could see it happening. Lendl started rushing. He started going for too much. He started making errors. In the fifth set, with Chang barely able to walk, Lendl completely fell apart. He double faulted. He missed easy forehands. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere but on that court. And then on match point, Chang did something even crazier. He stood at the service line, not behind it, at it. He was daring Lendl to hit a second serve past him. Lendl, rattled, nervous, and completely out of rhythm, hit the serve long. Game over. Final score: 4-6, 4-6, 6-3, 6-3, 6-3. Michael Chang had done the impossible. But the story doesn't end there. Because after beating Lendl, Chang still had 3 more matches to win. Quarterfinals against Ronald Agenor. Semifinals against Andrei Chesnokov. Finals against Stefan Edberg, another Grand Slam champion. And he won all 3 matches the same way. Not with power, not with a big serve, but with speed, endurance, and a refusal to give his opponents anything easy. He ran down every ball. He made them hit 5, 6, 7 extra shots. He turned every point into a grind. And on June 11th, 1989, at 17 years old, Michael Chang became the youngest male Grand Slam champion in history. So what's the lesson here? Michael Chang proved something that most people refuse to believe. You don't need to be the biggest. You don't need to be the strongest. You don't even need to have the best weapons. What you need is a strategy that plays to your strengths. Chang couldn't overpower anyone, so he didn't try. Instead, he built his entire game around one simple idea: make your opponent more uncomfortable than you are. And that's what separates good players from champions. Good players try to fix their weaknesses. Champions turn their weaknesses into weapons. Chang's lack of power forced him to become the best defender in the world. His small frame forced him to become the fastest player on tour. His weak serve forced him to develop the best return game of his generation. And when you put all of that together, you get a player who doesn't just win. You get a player who changes the game. Because after 1989, scouts started looking for the next Michael Chang. They started valuing speed over size. They started valuing IQ over power. And today, some of the best players in the world, guys like Diego Schwartzman, Daniil Medvedev, even Carlos Alcaraz in his defensive moments, they all owe something to what Chang proved in 1989. That tennis isn't about who hits the hardest. It's about who thinks the fastest. It's about who can adapt when everything goes wrong. It's about who refuses to quit when their body is failing and the odds are stacked against them. Michael Chang didn't just win the French Open. He rewrote the blueprint for what a champion looks like. Before hitting the best shots ever, I need to ask you for a quick favor. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch without subscribing. It costs you absolutely nothing, but it makes a huge difference for us to keep bringing you this unfiltered analysis that cuts through the mainstream media spin. Michael Chang's story is proof that the game isn't always won by the strongest. Sometimes it's won by the smartest. And if you want more stories like this, stories that show you the hidden strategies behind tennis's greatest moments, then you're in the right place. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Who's your favorite underdog in tennis history? And don't forget to subscribe for more breaking coverage of the stories that are reshaping our tennis world. Thanks for watching. This is KT Tennis, and we'll see you in the next one.